Everybody say they talk SEO, but you either talk little SEO or big SEO. You already know which one I do. Ha! Come on! What are they really talking about at the end of the day, man? It's beyond me. Now what we gotta get? Money, money. And what it's all about? Money, money. And what we living for? Money, money. And what we dying for? Money, money. Come on, let's get it go. Let's get it go. Let's get it go. Let's get it go. Let's get it. Yeah, here comes the kid with the black hat. Hold all your bets, here's where the white hat rests. Fucking methods, I'ma step out on my own. About time I retaliate, get away from my throne. Keep the metadata, I'm organic, homegrown. You looking for the goodies, oops, wrong song. I've been holding back on these attacks for so long that I'ma use your IP and probably meet you at your home. Now, let's check the ARVs account and see who really bout it and who just chasing clout. I'm really not the one to do the capping and the faking. If I told you it's a plan, we got a goal, then I'ma make it yet. But see, here's what's funny to me. You just an oversized trash can for money to me. You got a pitch so weak, only dummies believe it. Don't gotta prove I'm the truth, you got eyes to see it. Go! Money, money. And what it's all about? Money, money. And what we living for? Money, money. And what we dying for? Money, money. Come on, let's get it go. Let's get it go. Let's get it go. Let's get it go. I'm the reason that you wanna hold a conference. Shame on my name for some gain, that's nonsense. All you hear is tick, tick, tick. I'm the bombers, blasted targets, and I'm not with the drama. The band's gonna take over. Now put that in a diorama, comma, pause cause I wanna. I don't follow rules when the rules try to stop me. So I put that SEO on go, the top speed. And I bet your clients mad you and not me. Anytime you gotta show results, you in the hot seat. Oh no, why, how is it this happened? That's the main question your customers all be asking. You the type to take a test and try to pass it. I'm the type to take the professor, get all the answers. You probably better off if you become a dancer. Now move out my way cause I ain't giving no more chances. Money, money. And what it's all about? Money, money. And what we living for? Money, money. And what we dying for? Money, money. Come on, let's get it go. Let's get it go. Let's get it go. Let's get it go.
Hey guys, what's up? What's up? This is a new series we're going to be running every Monday. We're going to be here with Patrick from Lead Snap. We're going to be discussing all things lead generation, lead gen, how to run a lead gen business, rank and rent, all your questions. So start getting them in, start dropping them in. I'm going to go ahead and get Patrick in here real quick. Give me 1 second. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good, buddy. I thought I lost you there for a minute when I put you in the back room and then you went bye-bye. So I was like, where did he go?
Yeah, anytime that you're going to do a live, then your computer's like guaranteed to freeze as soon as it starts, right? So.
Yeah. So let's see here. Get some questions coming in and everything. Then we'll start sharing. If you ever want to share your screen at all to go over anything, feel free. Let me pull all this out. And so how many of you guys are at your here? Hey, Greg, have heard of Lead Snap? We got about 20 something people on here right now. So some of them may be in GMB Pro. Some of them may not be in GMB Pro. So I'm curious as how many of y'all have actually heard about Lead Snap. Give me a 1 if you have heard about Lead Snap. But, overall, we're just going to go through it, kind of show it and everything and showcase it. Greg says he loves it. Let's see here. Yeah, your computer was crashing. I love it when it happens. Let's see. Drop your questions. All right. There we go. 2 Labs Lead Gen. They've heard of it. 2 Labs Lead Gen. All right, how many of you are actually wanting to discuss, if you will, because I've had a couple of people, for instance, they want to talk about rank and rent, how to get started in lead generation or lead gen in general, and how can they use Lead Snap. What can, if you will, tell us the story of how you came about creating lead snap. I know it, but I would like to have the audience hear it and kind of see where you're coming from, because we're going to be doing this on a weekly basis. I think that's probably the best place to get started from.
Yeah. So just like you, I started out in the rake and rent space, right? I was building my agency, and I have a background in software. So kind of coming into this, and as I started to scale, it was pretty obvious that I was becoming disorganized. And, I ended up paying for like 6 or 7 different subscriptions to things. Didn't really like how anything worked. Wasn't happy with the support. And just kind of honestly, we felt like, hey, we could come up with a better solution for this. So we started out with, just building something to organize our leads. So once we got up past 5 or 6 sites, it was like what sites are producing what, right? And so we built this product as a solution for our agency because we couldn't figure things out. I remember with our Google My Businesses, our GMBs, we were trying to understand where we were ranking, and it was tough. And this was before some of these other products started to come out. But what I used to do is I would get like a spreadsheet, and I would list off all the zip codes. I would get my ranking for one spot, and then I would go to the next zip code and try to build like a little map that would show me how my ranking is across the area. So, that was part of the solution here is we built our heat map so that we could go in and see how our Google My Business ranks across an area. And then we could start to apply some local strategies to that. We were struggling to get reviews, right? So we built the reputation management part of that because that's an important factor for ranking our Google My Businesses. And without a system to get those, it can be pretty frustrating. And you kind of go through different phases where getting reviews when you don't have a client is one challenge. But once you land a client, now you should be able to create a system, right? So, so that was part of what we were looking for. And, I was getting killed with spam, like, especially as I got up to like 10, 20, 30 sites. So now we've gone to the point where we have 400, right? So
we even get that with, because we manage so many, we'll have clients, for instance, they'll say they get loads of spam, build a brand new website, and they start getting spam. And I tell them, say, well, you can use a CAPTCHA. But even if you use a CAPTCHA, nowadays, because especially being in SEO or Black Hat, we know exactly there are CAPTCHA solvers and everything else for people that are actually trying to, if you will, get you to respond or spam you or whatever. And it's all say you need to use something like LeadSnap. Whenever I've used LeadSnap on people or their form or your forms in specific, we don't ever have a spam issue ever. So you have a very good spam filter on your forms. For one, besides your forms, I also know your phone calls. But
those two, and I'll tell you, like, one of the cool things that we put in a few months ago was the automations, right? So like you could say, hey, when a form submission comes in, do this. And if you don't have that kind of spam blocker sitting in between the automations, then it's like your automations and anything you try to do based on an event happening, it's going to be happening incorrectly for a lot of time, right? So like if I'm getting, like in my agency, we get 1,000 spam form submissions a day, right? So if I didn't have that there, I would have 1,000 times a day, those automations would be firing incorrectly. So my automations are delivering when the lead comes in, I can send a text message to the person who submitted the form submission, right? So I can help my client convert more, right? Ultimately, we're going to get paid associated with the value that we provide, right? There's going to be a really strong correlation. And if we can eliminate that spam and have more accurate leads and our automations are working better, then we provide more value, right? So having that stand in the way is awesome. And how are we going to know what we're even providing to people without, like, if the spam's not, if it's not blocked, we don't know how many leads we send, right? And if you're charging based on whether you're charging a flat fee or you're charging some sort of percentage deal or you're charging a pay per lead.
Based on lead, paper, like PPL.
Critical information. So,
and then being in rank and rent, you'll get clients. They'll say, "Hey, these calls were actually spam, or they'll try to get out of paying shit. And then I know with like Lead Snap, you can actually record and listen to phone calls and all that jazz. So you can't really get away with all that stuff.
For sure. We just had this conversation last week. This guy, we sent him leads. He's on a flat fee. That's how I try to do it in my agency. I messed around with commission and pay per lead, but I just said, look, if this is going to be scalable, I've tried to build this agency to scale, and I'm okay with taking a little bit less money as opposed to like pay per lead or percentage deal for not having to worry about the conversation. Hey, this is a lead. You know, that creates kind of a contentious relationship with the client. If you're just always like back and forth, it's not scalable in my mind. You're always like checking in. Okay, what's a lead? What's not a lead? In our agency, we have, on our slow months, we'll have 10,000 leads come in. So if we had to go through and check what's a lead, what's not a lead, and then go back and like, it's a mess, right?
Yeah.
So we move everything to flat fee. And we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago where this guy calls in, and he had this idea in his head that he was supposed to be getting like 50 leads a month for this flat fee. And he's like, hey man, you know, I've been behind the 8 ball all year long. I've never had 50 leads. And I like, that doesn't sound right at all. Let's open up the system. So we got on a Zoom call and I showed him, I'm like, hey, here's the phone calls from like January, February, March, every month. Here's the form submissions. And he had been getting like an average of 200 leads a month. So 4 times what he thought that he was supposed to be getting. And it was all right there in our system. I could show him. And I'm like, look, I could go through and say, hey, these are the calls that you're missing right now. You've missed out of like October. So you've missed, like, you've had 2,100 leads come in this month, and you've only answered the phone like 1,700 times. You've missed a phone call this month. So like, getting more leads is not the solution here. You got to figure out how to answer the phone, man.
Pick up the damn phone.
What's that?
Pick up the damn phone.
Pick up the phone. I mean, what is more leads? You're not behind the 8 ball, but we had it right there, and it was obvious. We could go through. I could press play and like see the phone call going, hear the phone call going to his voicemail. Right? It was indisputable. Right? So he really changed his tune in a hurry. And just like having that information is really valuable for us. I brought in a sales guy and my client manager as my agency scale, because you're going to want to replace parts and pieces, and it's very important that you do it in the right timing. Right? You don't want to hire people too fast, and if you wait too long, it's going to cost you too. But I made a really good decision where I was spending so much time talking to clients. I brought someone in. I brought a guy in named Jeff, and Jeff like handles the conversations and he monitors the leads. So what's happened over the last like 8 months or so is he'll go through and he'll look and be like, hey, these people aren't paying enough based on what we're sending them. So when we go through, we'll export from our system. We'll export a list of leads and be like, hey, this is what we're sending you. This is what we think that the average lead will be. So, if we say the average lead is like $50, right? And we're sending, we're at like 10 leads, and then we go to like 50 leads. We're like, hey, we need to go to $2,500, right? So we've got that. We send them that. We prove it to them, and then it makes that conversation to raise the rent a lot easier. And it's I'll tell you, I'm sure you've noticed this, William. It is a lot easier to move a client up in price than it is to try to like find some new client, right? So.
Second money is easier than first money. That's for a fact. And I was actually just talking to this along these lines with my friend Jason. He's also a mentee of mine. He's coming over here to the Philippines so I can help him scale his agency. But basically, every successful person there would be no, if you will, I know some people don't like him. Some people do. Donald Trump. Or there's other people that are highly successful, millionaires, billionaires, stuff like that. There would be no Donald Trump if he didn't have his tier 1 people, his wife, his guy that he consults with. There would be no Donald Trump if there's no tier 2, tier 3, and your tiers are your people, your team. is who help you do the things you do. It's like you started outsourcing some of the things, and I guarantee you it helped increase, if you will, your profit margins, and enabled you to do more and better things and concentrate on things that you couldn't do if you didn't have that team in place. And one of the things I really liked about your software when I first found it, because I've been going back, I had someone else ask this, was what's the difference between this and Go High Level? One of the reasons I like LeadSnap over Go High Level per se was whenever I first talked to you, I had Paul Myers. He's the one that told me about you and everything, and was, you have that background where you told me you came out of poker, and then on top of it, you developed this software, this system out of the need of you actually running an agency. One of the things I find biggest problem with, I don't know really the background of the other guys, but most developers that I've seen that actually develop tools, I have yet to find a whole lot of them that actually develop them out of having ran an agency. Most of the guys don't do that, but you were totally different. It was, hey, I had these 300, 400, however many rank and rent, assets that you have, and I need a system so I don't go crazy. That's kind of how you developed it. So
yeah, absolutely. It's and this is kind of exactly what led to us. I saw this kind of opportunity where it's obvious when you start to use some of these tools that these are built by software engineers who they're not in the mindset of a digital marketing agency when they're building the tool, because things are just, they're not in the right places. They're not how we need them. So what we're doing is we're building this as our first client essentially. And we're kind of using it. And as we use it, we're like, it would be great if like X, Y, and Z on this screen, or like, that's not actually how this should work when I'm here. When I'm on this screen, this is what I want to see. This is the information I need. I need to be able to like flip back and forth. Like, so where LeadSnap is now is it's not version 1, 2, or 3. It's version like 75 because we've changed it. And what we've done is like, as we've had our users over the last 12 months since we've launched, we've like every time someone asks a question, we're like, oh, okay. So that person has a question here. So we take that as feedback. We're not like, let me just answer the question and help. Like, why does that question exist? Right. So let's adjust it. Just like when you're building your ranking, I'm an optimizer. And when I see something, I'm like, let's take this somewhat personally when someone has something confusing. And when you kind of circle this back to Go High Level, and like, honestly, I haven't used Go High Level a ton, but I'll tell you, from all the people that continuously switch from Go High Level to our system, what I hear is how confusing it is and how like,
it's got a lot of bells and whistles,
right.
Which is because I remember when I first met you, it was along the lines, I was just starting my agency. So I was just starting to get a lot of volume. And I was like, how in the hell can I handle all the leads that are coming in and keep track of it? And I asked everybody that was on my friends list. I had like, at that time, I had a couple of thousand. And I said, who uses what CRM? And then I expected this because they've been in it for a while. Go High Level, Go High Level, Go High Level, Go High Level. And then I seen Adam McKenzie, who was one of my clients before he merged into Height. He said, LeadSnap. And then I had Paul, who was in my ranking and said LeadSnap. I was like, so it always catches my attention when it's someone different. And so I'd already seen Go High Level, and it was just, to me, it's more tedious. It looks pretty and everything, but it's not as cut and dry and easy. With LeadSnap, I was able to just go in day one, use it. It wasn't difficult at all, so, and then of course the back, the support and everything else. And then knowing the fact that you build it because you're an agency, because you ran into these issues is, for me is, it seals the deal for me. So,
I certainly appreciate that. I think that when you get in there and you play with it, there's a guy that I was talking to a couple of weeks ago that he's like a techie person. And he said he spent over 100 hours trying to get set up. And then eventually he hired a company in India that was like a Go High Level expert. And he looked at our stuff and he's like, I just know how it
It's
works.
so easy. I literally can go in the dashboard, have no training, and I know exactly what to do. So
that was kind of our goal, right? And that's why it's version 75 and not 1, 2, or 3. And prior to building the software, like you said, I spent 10 years playing poker for a living. That was like what I did. Professional poker player. Didn't have the software skills, but the whole time I was like obsessed with understanding people's mindsets. That's like what poker is all about. It's just
psychology, mindset, stats,
right.
and all those things. So that background on top of it's going to give you an edge too, because tell people it's not luck. I'd rather be lucky than good, but I also like having the numbers and the stats. Mm-hmm. You're along the same lines too. So
yeah, I mean, being able to analyze things, right? That kind of like strategy analyzation piece is going to be important. And we went from that to I learned to be a software engineer. I like signed up for online classes, just like a lot of you guys are doing rank and rent. I bought like a second computer and I started. It used to be lynda.com. Now it's LinkedIn Learning. So I was like taking classes and trying to follow along. Built my first website, and I ended up building a tool to help take notes while I was at the poker table, playing online.
A lot of guys do that,
yeah. So
Thomas said they'll be playing a game, and they have their laptop over here playing as well, so they multitask. So
yeah, it was. It was the same thing, right? I was a poker player building the tool, so it made my poker tool better than the other ones that existed, where it was just like software engineers trying to guess at what functionality is needed, right? Yeah. So I ended up landing a deal. It was like one of my first big deals with this nursing home thing. Like this lady wanted to build this e-commerce site to send out these like checklists for nursing homes, and I was like, hey, don't do this. Instead, like do this thing that's way more expensive and more complicated, but it's going to make this a lot more valuable for you. And she ended up cashing in her, like, it was a big risk for her. She didn't have a lot of money at the time. So she cashed in like her 401k and all this stuff. And then she invested, and we built this tool. So it was like, helps you make a decision as to what nursing home, assisted living, palliative care, stuff like this is best for you. And she took this thing, it took her 2 years, but she ended up selling like 12.2 million subscriptions to like Blue Cross and Blue Shield and Aetna with our product. They loved it. But what the skill set that really came out of it was like, one, how to build a platform, and two, how to do it in a way, because in that nursing home space, it's like the least tech savvy demographic that you're going to run into. Yeah. We had to build something that people were going to understand. So to take that skill set and then bring it back to marketing, where it's like, hey, now we're dealing with like techie people. Let's build this platform in a way where like nursing home people may be able to understand it. So that's kind of like, it was a lot of learning to kind of get that user interface in place, and then to bring it back into this. It's been great to see the way people have adopted it. And obviously it's not perfect, and we still have questions on how things work, but we've really started with the user in mind.
Anything with Google's never going to be perfect.
That's right.
Always get It's like, can you guarantee? You realize you're dealing with Google, right? There's no guarantee, that the GMB is not going to be suspended, that, this is going to always work or whatever, because Google's always updating and always changing, and algorithms and pandas and penguins and every other animal from the animal farm. So got a couple of questions that came in here too. So I got Jeff. He's from Manila. Hey, Jeff. BizTour. Interesting conversation. Agree with a lot of points raised in rank and rent. You had a fella up here. He called you. He said, Patrick Shannon, JK Gangster. Ain't seen you since Vegas.
I don't know who Facebook user is, but
yeah, if they don't give StreamYard permission, it just says Facebook user.
Well, hey, good to see you again, whoever you are.
Yeah, Jason. What's up, gents? What's up, Jason? He's going to be coming over here to the Philippines soon. So you need to get a degree to go high level. Very true. Facebook user Patrick Shannon is good people. Pretty sure that I have a feeling it's Mike Merlino, but we'll see. Greg, no high level, too many moving parts. We have one question from Alfredo. Do you help with setup? I open up Go High Level and I close it. It's too blowing hard for me. It's the one big thing I'd say.
I'll tell you, like one of the things that I'm big on is just like over delivering for our clients and customers. I think there's a couple people on here like Tony. I see Tony Koenig popping in here, and Gary Adams. Those guys I think recently started. I jump on. I've got a team of people. We've got a lot of support. So I've been jumping on people. So I'm the owner and creator. I have a team. But right now, what's important is like, let's make the onboarding process as amazing as possible for people. So I'm personally jumping on with calls and walking you through, answering your questions. So we don't charge anything. I think that Go High Level, I'm not sure, but I thought they charge some kind of like setup, but like we don't do that. Ours is like, we're trying to build something based on impact. And I'll tell you something else that we're putting into this. To those of you guys that are, hey, we're getting started with Rank and Rent or wherever you are, we're building training directly into the platform. I think William here is going to throw some of his training into it. So what we're doing is trying to, how can we make you guys successful when you use the platform? And if you do that, I think we get a win-win situation here, right? So It has to mean you guys get amazing customer service when you have an issue or you want to get set up. Let's jump on a call. Let's hear exactly about your business, and then we'll dial in and kind of customize the call for you. So once you sign up for the platform, you get a 15-day free trial. And then one of the first things that you're going to see is like book an onboarding call. It's going to come as an email. There's a spot within the platform, and you can just book that call and jump on our schedule. And we'll ask you a couple questions about your agency, and then we'll set things up exactly how you need it. And you can do another one if you need to. So
I know one thing a lot of people are going to be asking. I already know the question, if you will, the answer to this one, but I know a lot of people are asking it. Is let's say I get started with you. I got 10, I got 20, I got 30 clients, something, let's say 10. How can I get my API set up? Because it's a pain in the ass and everybody knows it. It's not as cut and dry as most people say. That way I can manage all of my GMB posts. Because, a lot of people left, if you will, local Viking because of all the issues they had with the lack of support, with them. And I know the support's been amazing with LeadSnap because, we're in constant communication and stuff. But can you tell me, okay, I get onboarded, I got 10 clients, I need to get an API set up. What happens?
Yeah. So if you go to the GMB section within our platform, you're going to see a form that you can fill out. And when you fill that form out, it kind of triggers a sequence of events. It goes to someone on our team. So getting the API is a done for you service. We don't charge anything for that. We have someone on our team that's kind of a specialist. They're going to need a little bit of information from you. But once you fill that out, they handle all the interaction with Google and getting that set up. Awesome. It does take a varying amount of time. It might be a week. It might be, we've had them take 2 weeks, right? But we're kind of doing the lead work. I have someone specifically trained on every step of that, how to answer, when to follow up, all this different stuff so that we can get that as quickly as possible and take that nightmare away.
Yeah. Tony said he got his API email notice from LeadSnap today in progress. So one of the things I noticed, like, you're not leaving me in the dark whatsoever whenever we got it set up and got the API. It's constant communication back and forth between you and not just you, but your main lead with the API and everything. Alfredo says, could you use this as a CRM and prospecting tool? Are you limited to how many users are in the platform or how many prospects are in the system?
Yeah. So this, I should probably share my screen, but this is a lights out prospecting tool. That's been what
I'd like to do is on the next one, on the next show, what we'll do is, because I had a couple of people ask, we'll show how we actually prospect with it and how you can use it. Because that was one of the big ahas for me whenever I saw it, was the prospecting aspect of it. Is because you can literally go into the tool and go, this is where you're at, and this is where your client, not your client, but this other person over here is located, and here's where their geogrid's at and everything else. It's amazing what it can do.
Yeah,
Then on top of it, email them all from inside, keep track of them all from inside. So, I mean, it's an amazing tool. I mean, Adam McKenzie, I remember whenever I had him on as a client, he was like, yo, you know, all those clients that I was getting, well, lead snap has been the secret weapon. And that's when he kind of turned me on to, you know, lead snap and everything. I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, no, every one of them, you know, every one of them. So
we did a call. Yeah, we're actually doing a contest right now. So, and there's like some trainings, and we have a group. We have the lead snap group, right? And I've got trainings in there. But I'll tell you
So on top of, just for example, on top of, don't mean to interrupt you, on top of, you set up the API, you have an onboarding call, then on top of it, you have a group that goes along with it, and you give weekly trainings and everything else. I mean, so, I mean, you couldn't ask for something better than that to me. Two Labs also says, yeah, they want to see prospecting. I mean, next week we'll definitely go over it completely, but if you want to share your screen and show that aspect of it, I would like, you know, we could do that.
Yeah, we'll give them a little taste, huh?
Yeah, just give them a little taste and see.
All right. Give me 1 second here. I am new to this StreamYard.
Now you just hit share screen on the bottom, and then I'll put it in there. But yeah.
There we go. Okay, cool.
All right. Add stream. There we go.
Okay, cool.
Blow it up real quick. There you go.
Oh, wait a second. I shared. Hold on one. Amateur hour over here. Let me share this.
Okay.
Let me do this again.
Go ahead.
Whoa. Stop screen. Share. Share screen. Okay, cool. We good?
Nah, it doesn't show it yet. Here we go. There we go. We're good.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to go right into the prospecting stuff, but this is just like a 30-second overview. You can connect all your websites from, regardless of what platform they're on, bring in all your leads and everything right into here. We have this CRM functionality here. We've got a lot of automations where you could go through and say like, hey, if a new form submission comes in, wait 5 minutes and send a text message or whatever with the person's information to the person from the form submission. We've got reputation management. We've got a pipeline system in here. You can set reminder tasks. We've got the killer spam filters we talked about. We can manage all the contact conversations right from here. We've got, but what one of the killer pieces is this heat map. You know, we call it our heat map. Other people might call it like GeoGrids and other platforms. But okay, so like one thing that I want to do is I'm ultra competitive and I want to crush the competition. So we looked at the other platforms that have the GeoGrid and we kind of set our pricing according to their pricing, where I think ours is more functional than theirs, just like heat map to heat map. But then you also get, regardless of what plan you sign up for, you get every single module. So like, I think we beat them head to head for heat map, but this heat map and the Google My Business Management probably represents about 15% of our functionality instead of 100%, but it's the same price. So this is awesome for prospecting. And I saw that there was a question like, you can get unlimited users. That's not how we cap things. So we've
Alfredo. So you get unlimited users on the back end here. So
yeah, you can. That's not how we set things up. We set it up based on what we saw people's agency scaling. So for instance, one of the ways is website connections. The first plan, you get one website connection, and then as you go up, you get 10, 50, you get more, right? It keeps on scaling with you. So that way we can try to pace where you are with your agency and have pricing that is affordable based on where you are. Because like if we're trying to build this based on impact, that's an important thing to take into account, right? Okay, so you run your heat map, right? And the way it works is you're going to run it on a Google My Business. So in this case, I'm running it on this Benjamin Franklin Plumbing of Nashville, and I've ran it for the term plumber near me. I don't know of other platforms that allow you to do the near me, but the way we're doing it, it works for us. You can see you're getting all these different results. So this guy is obviously doing really well because this one represents that he's first in the results at that location. So if he had done a search at that, it's on top of this map, right? So if he had done a search from that point on the map where this one is sitting, then he would show up first. But over here, if he had searched from here, he would be third. And then down here, he would be fourth. So that's kind of what this is telling us is how you rank as you move across the city. And this is kind of a small area. So one of the cool things that ours does is if, like, let's say I click in here and I've got the coordinates of the exact point where that is. Okay. And this is the people that are outranking me at that spot. So you can see or in this case, no one is. This guy's first, this guy's second, third, and so on. But let's say I want to see this Don Wood Plumbing Company. So if I just click on this name, it will flip that map. And now I see the heat map from his perspective. And even though, like, if you're somebody that's comparing like local Viking, we have the same amount of searches, but what you can do with ours is you can basically cycle through the entire market on one search. So instead of it just being one, I can go through the entire market and flip this as many times as I want and see this from their view. So now from like back to the prospecting thing, this is where this can be lights out is like, let's say that you're this RE plumbing company. Look at this map here. So you're not ranking at all. And if somebody were to make a video and kind of go over like, hey, RE plumbing, what I would do is I would go and I would get a little information about the person that I'm prospecting. And I would try to create a little bit of a conversation. And then after I had that going, I'm gonna like, hey, would you mind if I send you like a short video of like RE plumbing and how you guys are doing? Usually that person's going to say yes. You need to phrase this as if it's a gift for them. So once you get that, you're like, hey, I want to show you, this is how you guys are ranking. And it's real easy to understand, right? So this is your company and I'm searching plumber near me. So as you move across the city, this is how you guys are ranking. Now let me show you how your competition is. Maybe you've heard of Benjamin Franklin Plumbing. This is how they're ranking. And then what I would do is I would go into the phone calls that I have for if I have someone that's ranking well. So you're at a decision tree here. If you're new, maybe you can't do this. But if you have another site that's ranking well, I would show like, hey, this is how we're ranking in. So this is in Nashville, right? So this is how we're ranking in Memphis for plumbing, right? This is us here. Here's the phone calls that are associated with it. So you can be pretty sure that Benjamin Franklin Plumbing is getting these phone calls and you're missing out on these, right? What is really cool is he doesn't need to be logged in. I can send him this link, right? So I'm going to go into an incognito window real quick. So I am not logged into LeadSnap in this browser and I can pull this up. So I imagine I just sent him this link in an email or a Facebook message and now he can see all this stuff without even having an account. He can go through here and click and still do that same functionality to flip the map. You can see, so down here we have the averages. So this will tell you 1.26 means that this Benjamin Franklin guy, his average score is 1.26 for this map. So we've ranked these in order of average, right? So you can see Don Wood Plumbing is 2.79. And I'll tell you, a lot of business owners have like a competitive streak. And when you start to show them in black and white, or I guess in this case, red and green, it paints a perfect picture and they know how it works and it elicits an emotional response for them that, hey, like my company's not doing so well. This other guy, they're crushing me, right? And when you kind of can explain to them how they can fix that. So some of the strategies are going to be like, this is what I would advise you to do is like give away the farm. Okay. This plumber is not going to go and execute these strategies. But when you do this and you tell them how they can fix the problem, now you've earned their trust and they're going to want to hire you to do it. So don't hold back with what you know. Don't get caught in the weeds and get too tacky, but you can just be a couple quick tips, right? Like, hey, the Google My Business only shows the top 3. So these spots that are 4s and 5s are the most valuable pieces to go out because you can move those from having no presence in the Google My Business to being where it's visible, and that's where the calls are going to start to come in. So some of the strategies you want to do is like, what if you built some pages on your website that talk about some of these areas, right? So
is there any limitations? Jason wants to know. Sorry, is there any limitations, or does this work all over the world?
All over the world.
Awesome.
It's limited to Earth right now.
Best GeoGrid on Earth.
Yeah. So you can target individual areas. Like if I'm not ranking in this Arlington area, I could maybe get some pages on my website that talk about it. I could get a review that mentions that area with Plumber. So share some of this stuff as a part of your prospecting strategy, and they will reward you for it. They'll trust you. You show up as giving them value, and you kind of build that relationship. And then from there, it's easy to kind of like transition them into, and this is what we've seen time and time again. Like Adam McChesney, you're mentioning, we ran a contest last year, and I think he was at $2,000 a month after being in the rank and rent for like a year or more. And during the 30 days where he took this strategy and ran with it, he landed $14,000 in recurring revenue. And I've spoken to Adam quite a bit. He saw the contest that we're running again now, and he actually mentioned in one of the threads, that was the turning point for me. I think now he's doing $90,000 a month, which is like, that's obviously really good, right? He's gone a long way. Can you generate PNGs with the GeoGrids? You can do PDFs. So we're actually, which I mean, I think is essentially going to.
I don't necessarily want to do a PNG. There are other ones that do it, but the problem with the PNGs, it only does the map. It doesn't give you the averages. It doesn't give you the information about their competition, so they don't see, if you will, on that PDF. Whereas when it's a PDF, they go, okay, all these other dudes are beating me, and I'm way down here, and I want to be way up here. So I don't use PNGs to show people that way, because when I show them a GeoGrid and I send the PDF over to them, and as soon as they see all that information, I've done, just in the past week, I've done only about 30, if you will, audits. I've already signed up at least 5 or 6 new clients based off of that. So, and part of my prospecting, if you will, is showing them the GeoGrids besides the audits. So Facebook user says, this looks like a good way of prospecting.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't know of a better way to do it. And maybe there's out there, and it's going to be different for everyone, but I've just seen it. We must have 100 testimonials from people that are like, I've never really landed clients. Now this thing is like crushing it for me. And you hear that enough times, and you start to get pretty confident in the product that you're selling towards that specific aspect, towards prospecting. I think it's like absolutely lights out killer. There's coaching that we have in our group. And I essentially have like a sales pitch that I do, and I go through every step of the way, and you just basically need to make it your own and then copy it and implement it. And, Spencer Lund is another guy that's in, Rank Forces training.
I know Spencer. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he had 36 appointments in like a 12-day period or something, using the strategy. We use a group strategy where you post it into a Facebook group, and that's what the competition is about. Jason, I see that question is like, it's who can essentially post the most into a group using this strategy. So you're making like videos and you're prospecting with it, and you're sharing that in a Facebook group. So that's the strategy. Is like, we try to gamify getting you in front of people and taking the actions that are necessary to grow your agency. And that's exactly why we build these competitions that way.
Yep. Rest in peace, local Viking. Go high level. Nigel says that report link would be great if we could be white labeled.
Yep.
Is that something that you're working on? I'm pretty sure that we talked about that too.
That's right. So this week was our target to get our white labeling out, but honestly, it's probably going to be next week. That's just the way things go with development.
Yep. Especially with development.
What's that?
Especially with development.
That's right. Yeah, it's like, it's like trying to plan on you're in LA and you're trying to drive somewhere, and it's like, what's the traffic going to look like? We know it's going to be there, but like, we don't know how much, right? And that's, so next week we're targeting for before the end of November, you're going to be able to white label this entire system, right? So not only this report, but the whole platform, you can host it on your domain. You can put your logo, your colors, whatever. There'll be no trace of LeadSnap with this, which means that you can start to sell this, especially with the reputation management stuff, being able to sell this and not have people look at this system and then find a way to kind of circumvent whatever your pricing is, right? So
what do you typically charge? Because I know you're mainly in rank and rent. Jeffrey wants to know, what's a typical charge to a client monthly for SEO?
So I went through, and I would say it's really important for everyone to know your numbers. For the people that have bigger agencies, our average is $2,300 a month with our clients and what we're bringing in. We have a couple clients that are paying us $500 a month. We have one client that pays us $13,000 a month. So here's what the key is. Who is that? Jeffrey. So a couple of things, a couple like quick takeaways for the rank and rent strategy. And I'll just kind of I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. So I'll kind of ask William here. William, what is the relationship between...
Can't see you right now, Patrick.
Oh, there we go.
There you are.
Okay, cool. So William, what's the relationship between if a business is easy to start and what the competition level is going to look like? So is it the competition going to be greater if a business is easier to start, right? Because more people are going to start these businesses. Right?
More people will be in it, yeah.
So you look at something like carpet cleaning. The requirement for being a carpet cleaner is that you own a van, because you can essentially go rent a carpet cleaner from like Home Depot or something. Okay, so we've got businesses that are easier to start and businesses that are harder to start. When you go to build this out and you're looking to raise that monthly rent, you want to target niches where the businesses are harder to start because you're going to run into less competition. Okay, so next thing is, what's the relationship between if a business is easy to start and the value of the leads that come in? There's not a lot of businesses that are going to be easy to start where you're like going to be charging a lot of money, right? You can't, let me just throw together this pool building company, right? It's a sophisticated business if there's a high cost. And there's
it's like you can't, not everybody, roofing, you're supposed to have licensing, you're supposed to have certain things, and but you do have some people that try to be scrupulous about it and stuff.
That's right.
It's the same thing. You can't just, I'm going to throw a roof together, You've
got to have a skill set. Whenever you're charging more, there's usually like equipment involved. There's a skill set involved. Usually the government is going to require a license if the charge gets too high, right? And what that's going to do is it's going to reduce the competition. Also, what's the relationship when, like, if something is if you're charging more, the leads are worth more, right? So you kind of have this inverse relationship that's happening where it's like less competition with more value. So this is why I don't go into carpet cleaning, because you're going to be competing against everyone, and then the leads aren't worth anything, right? So this is what we noticed when we started out. My first one was in towing, right? So that anyone with the truck can start a tow truck. And I thought, wow, this guy's paid me for a long time, but the leads are worth $80, right? And you consider that to like pool building. So the lead might be worth, if they close the job, might be worth $50,000, right? So if I'm sending like 10 pool building leads, like maybe I could charge $2,500. Whereas if I sent 10 towing leads, that might be $150 or I don't know, $100, right? It's just like you have to think about this. So towing is more competitive, so it's harder to get the leads, and the leads are worth less, right? So when we started moving up, that's what we started doing, is we really started to target those niches where the lead value, I like to have an average of at least $1,000 for that lead cost, right? Or like where the job cost is at least $1,000. And that's how you can start to get those bigger numbers. And that's how we got that $13,000 a month client was a combination of like taking over a bunch of markets and going after a niche where the average cost for the job was expensive, right? So
Nigel wants to know, and if y'all aren't listening, the man just dropped like a lot of gold information there, because a lot of guys come in, they want to do rank and rent, and they just go, let me do every niche under the sun. And instead of concentrating on one niche or even looking for niches with value and, if you will, short sales process, everything, they wind up getting into niches that have a long sales process and are not going to have value. And then they can't sell their leads and all this other information. But Nigel wants to know, will the white label be only for certain plans or an extra charge?
Yeah, so that's something that we've been kicking around a lot. It will be for any plan, but I think we will be having like an extra charge. But I haven't worked out all the details. I just joined. It's important as you guys go through things to make sure that you keep on looking for coaching like you guys are now. And I joined a software coaching program, and I'm trying to get some advice on the pros and cons of how to best deliver this. I've never owned a SaaS platform like this, or a subscription-based software platform. So we're learning as we're going, and there's a lot of implications with the white labeling stuff from like a business standpoint. So I don't have a clean answer for you. If we do charge, this is designed to try to scale with you, and we're going to stick with that principle of trying to make this economical for people. Like if you're white labeling it, how can we make sure that it's scaling with you and it's affordable no matter where you are? So it's kind of like some principles of how we've set this up, and we're going to continue with those.
Yep, nice. All right. Jason says 1,000, I believe 100,000%. He agrees with you. They call them backyard brigades, we call them. Alfredo, this is great. Gives me a different way to look at an industry level of entry versus skill level. Another thing that I show you, I've went over this 1,000 different times in my own rank and rent program, is once you find the niche you want to get involved in, then how do you choose the city or the area? And what I generally want to tell people to do is go to Google Trends. Look at the trends inside Google search engine. It will literally tell you, if I pick a state, it will show me exact cities, exact counties, and everything that have if you will, an uptrend of the search. Brent Bowser says, good morning, Brent, over in Canada. So let's see here.
That's another like there's two things that I would add to that when we're trying to pick a niche. There's some really good stuff. And here's a problem with this technique is you don't run Google Ads, you can't use it, but there's ways to go in and use Google Ads Planner to be able to see that the cities wherever you are that have the most search volume for a particular term, right? Where it's like, hey, 2% of this.
Well, everybody can set up a Google Ads account. It doesn't mean
but I think it gives you ranges if you're not spending money instead of like exact numbers.
Yeah, right? I understand.
But with the heat map, I'll just do a quick share again real quick. There's some cool stuff when you're trying to pick your city and niche. All right, share the screen. Okay, cool. So this is what I do in my process is when I'm like going into a niche, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find one person in the city that I'm interested in because I want to know the average, who has the highest average or the lowest average, right? So this guy, Benjamin Franklin, we built this tool with you guys in mind when you're trying to make a decision on what niche in what city to go into is like, this will tell you who the top dog is. And then when you go in, you do your research, you want to do it on the top person, because if I were, let's try this like Dixon Plumbing Company. I don't know if it's going to cooperate. Here we go. This is perfect. So let's say that I did a Google search and Google happened to choose this spot down here and it shows that they're number one, right? So I make the mistake of thinking that this Dixon Plumbing Company is kind of like the top dog in town. And I do my due diligence and my research on them. And I see that they're not very tough. They're not doing a great job. So I think that the city is easy because they're ranking first without doing a great job. But it just so happens Google just chose this one spot. And look how poorly they're ranking over the rest of the map. So being able to get this average will tell you beyond a shadow of doubt who the top person is, and then do your research on this person. And if they still are not good, then you can have a lot more confidence that this is going to be an easier niche to go into, right? And, there's a second tool in here just for you guys. We have this due diligence tool, right? So you can build these worksheets, right? You can go through, we'll go and look at this default one. So you go through and you fill this out, and then you assign a rating to the city, to the niche. Once I complete this, right? If I say I'm going to choose an existing niche, so I'll choose like roofing, and we'll say this is Dallas, right? And imagine I've gone through and I filled this out, and that these questions expose the weakness or the strength of the market. And at the end, it's going to ask me to assign a rating, right? Where I can say, hey, this is an excellent opportunity or not such a great niche. So maybe it's an average opportunity. So I go through and I can see these are all the different ones that I've completed. And I could go through and say, hey, show me the ones that are the best, right? Show me the top ones. These are all saved in here. And these worksheets are completely customizable. So you could add in whatever questions you want, right? I could make my own fields, text fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, and then I could use this as a way to evaluate the niches and be sure that I'm going into the right one. I'll tell you, spending a couple hours doing your research or a day is going to be well worth the time that it saves you from not ranking. You're like pulling your hair out because you can't get something to rank. Like, well, you went into a bad market. And another thing that I would advise for you is to when you go into one and one's not working, like they say like learning comes from experience. I think learning comes from like the reflection of experience, right? Looking back on things. So when you go through and things aren't working, find out why, so you don't make that same mistake on the next niche, right? Don't just like, hey, that's a loss, I'm on to the next thing. Go and dive in. Let's figure out why, because until you can answer why, you're gonna have the same problem again, right? It's gonna show up again and again. So, all right, cool.
Nice, Alfredo. There's a link in the description of the video. Patrick, what is the link to sign up and join the competition you're running? And is this the Black Friday special?
No. So we do have the Black Friday special going. We had planned to release it Saturday, but we didn't end up doing the call. But we're going to basically extend this. We could actually start it now. We have 2 tickets. So the way it's going to work is so this is let's just like go over a few things. This is LeadSnap. It's leadsnap.com, right? And if you go through, you'll notice that we have 2 different types of pricing. We have pricing for the CRM, right? Where it's basically all these tools. One of the things we haven't talked about, William, is the phone system. So we have built in here an entire phone system, right? You can buy local numbers all over the world. We've had a couple issues in that we're working through in Australia, South Africa, and the UK. There's different levels of compliance that are necessary, right? So this pricing right here is for essentially everything but the phone system. And then if you look up here at leadsnap.com and then go up to pricing, you'll see the phone system pricing. And this will vary a little bit based on your country. So I think we have phenomenal prices relative to other people in the functionality that we have in here. A lot of you guys using CallRail, we basically
you can put all the tools pretty much in one system versus having, go and get local Falcon, local Viking, and then this system and that system, and then the CRM system, and then all that. You put it all in one. George says he got a recommendation for a call network to sell leads to for new geographic markets, or do you hustle the leads into the market yourself?
Let me read that question. That's confusing. Got a recommendation for a call network to
in other words, if you're getting the leads, are you personally going to the market to sell them, or do you send those over to someone to sell them for you, pretty much?
So what I do is I create a relationship with the person that I'm selling them to, and they become my client. So they're kind of like the end user. There's a lot of money in the middleman. If you connect with another middleman, then that's kind of like getting watered down. So, it could be that, here's an example is I know that like Home Advisor, they buy the leads, right? They'll buy leads from you for $3 or $4 or $2 or something.
It's cheap.
But I go and I create a relationship with the person they're selling them to, and we'll sell them for $60, And we
Nice.
like what the beauty of this platform is it's going to automate that process, the delivery process, the tracking, and it gives transparency to the client. They can log in. Like your clients can all log into this and see only the stuff that is associated with them. So this platform is really designed to help you cater that relationship with that end user. So I would highly recommend. It could be a good stepping stone if you have some kind of network and you don't have a client, but get out of that relationship as soon as possible and start selling them to the person who's doing the work or the company that's doing the work to get the most amount of money for it. And once you get that on autopilot, it's not that big a deal.
Yep.
Cool.
Let's see here. Great job for a virtual assistant while you focus on sales. Yep. I would agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
We have a form, for example, whenever I drop free audits, and right now I have enough audits for about 40 or so, good 40 or 50. And then I split those up between myself and one other person, and we'll run them. And then on the weekends, I'll run all my audits and everything. So, and then we generate a lot of, if you will, our business, a lot of clientele just off of audits. And this is one of the reasons why I push it so much, especially why I teach it and scale your agency.
It's
guys,
like
so
value, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I try to just lead with value. If you lead with value, people will sign up. I don't worry about who's going to sign up or not sign up, really. If I know if you do a certain amount, show them, try to help them, not really try to sell anything, they're going to sign up, So,
yeah, it's the same way we've done in our agency. I think it's so smart to just give value.
Yeah, I mean, that's originally the first Facebook group. I went through this before in Scale Your Agency. First Facebook group I was ever in. Was a Google My Business group for tips, and it was started out at 4,000. I have the screenshots. By the time I was removed from the group, it was at 14,000. But I did it by how I got started in prospecting was I'd go in a group, answer questions, and then I would see people asking questions. I'd make a real quick Loom video of an audit and drop it right in there in the group. And people love that. And so that's been my, if you will, fingerprint on how I do and how I market myself in groups and YouTube everywhere else, and everybody loves it. And then I have people say, well, don't broadcast it. I won't broadcast it, but people love that, because if you go in there and you say, this is what your competition's doing, this is what you're doing, here's some weak spots, here's some strengths, and try to mix it all together, and then you can beat them. So
yeah, it's like, here's clear evidence and here's the action plan on how to fix it, right?
And that's why I like the PDF reports like on what you have, is because I can go, here's where this guy's at, this guy, and you're right here. And we need to get you here. And here's how we're going to do it. And give them a step-by-step, if you will, roadmap, and they love it. So George says, makes sense not to dilute the sales or the value of the leads. So if you want, what do you think about next week? We'll talk some about the phone system.
Yeah.
Because there was,
absolutely.
That's another huge part of Rank and Rent, another huge part of getting, if you will, leads and dealing with them and everything. And we can go from there. If you don't have LeadSnap, if you check out the link below, and you can go there, get the information, get the pricing and everything. And it's very affordable to me. Or you can just go straight to leadsnap.com and you can get it there as well. Let me share my screen real quick and I'll show you guys just so y'all can see it. Give me 1 second, because I got multiple, if you will, multiple things open. So pricing and everything, you got CRM and phone pricing. And then you can go through and see all the features and everything. What does it do? I mean, it has a bunch of integrations, lead management, reputation management, Google Ads, questionnaires, due diligence. This is specifically, if you will, for your prospecting and everything, and your GMB management and every phone system. I mean, there's just so much that you could do with LeadSnap. Go through here. This is Adam, who we were talking about earlier, Adam McKenzie. And this is Paul right here. He's got tons and tons and tons and tons of reviews. That's Devon. I know quite a few of these guys because we do Rank and Rent specifically. But this right here is one of the most powerful things I think of prospecting, being able to show someone, hey, here's where you're at and here's where I want to take you, or here's where you're at and here's your competition, even. But it goes through and literally shows you everything in here. And you get to start for free if you wanted to, booking a demo or contacting the sales group, chatting with them. I mean, very responsive and everything. So check out the link in the description. And next week we'll be back here again. If you have any questions, just come in. Also, Patrick is a part of GMB Pros. He comes in, teaches in GMB Pros. And, we do that on Saturdays. Saturdays is when you come in. And
so
he answers generally any of that. So go ahead.
We're going to drop that pricing. So we're going to do, we're going to make it last for a few days, 4 or 5 days maybe. But we have that special price. It's going to be basically the price.
Go ahead. And I would go ahead and drop it mainly because you got all this week. Everybody's been talking about Black Friday. What's going on with Black Friday? What are you doing as far as specials?
Here's my viewpoint on it is like, I really like Apple's strategy of not devaluing their product for Black Friday, but I also like, because I'm not going to offer this long-term, right? Like we've got a lot of users and I think this is going to grow organically just based on the feedback that we have, but we're going to have this kind of launch thing. We haven't pushed our software hard at all as far as like pushing it out. So here's what we're doing. Let me just share my screen and I'll show you the pricing that we're going to have for this limited time. And it's more of like, I guess mentally, I'm just making the association more with this is Williams special rather than like a Black Friday type thing. So let's go over here to CRM pricing, and you'll see that we have these yearly pricing here. So we've changed this. This is normally $29.70 for the there it is. I'm sorry, we didn't change. This is $29.70 for the year. But what we're going to do is we're going to make this $1,000 off for the year if you get this. So you get a $1,000 coupon. So this would be $1,970. So, and then this will be $500 off. So if you're using any of these two, that's the deal that we're going to run. Is like you get a pretty big discount if you sign up for a year on its own. But during this, we're going to take another $500 off here and $1,000 off here, which it's a little painful on my end, but to get people in here and to start using this, I think it's going to be phenomenal for you guys. So if you like this, this is going to be a limited time thing. And I know that we've had some people that have recently started using it and have been continuously asking when they can get these deals. So here's my advice. We ran this 12 months ago. We did something similar. People signed up during like the first 3 or 4 days, and then people came afterwards to try to get the deal. And I told them no. And they're like, hey, man, like I'll buy this, but I'm going to maintain integrity here. And we're running a deal. So if you're interested, you want to use this platform, we have 2 codes. There's coupon codes when you sign up. Those are Launch Agency and Launch Enterprise. So if you just enter those codes, Launch Agency and Launch Enterprise, you'll get that coupon. You have to be signing up for the year, and it has to be for one of these 2 plans. So that's the deal, right? So if you want this one, you just enter the coupon code Launch Enterprise, and it will take $1,000 off of this yearly price. And like I said, it's going to be a pretty tight window. Sometime probably early next week, that code will no longer work again, and probably ever again. So additionally, here's the kicker. If you sign up for this, it will renew at that price. So you're going to be locked in. For those of you guys that were using this 12 months ago when we kind of did our beta launch, you'll know that the functionality is probably doubled in the last year. And the price, so these people are still paying that same price, even though it has twice as much functionality. So you're kind of locked in for life at that price. As long as you continue to use it, I appreciate the people that are early adopters and are like willing to invest in themselves, willing to invest in and believe in our product and trust in our product. So that's the deal. You guys get $1,000 off forever on this. So as we add more stuff in here, you still get that. Okay, so we talked about white labeling. That might be separate, but that's the deal, man. I think the people that took advantage of it, we saw a lot of people renew, and they seem to love it. So we've had a lot of people that have paid this price. Tons of people have paid this price for the year once they started using it. So to get it at like 2/3 of that cost, I think is it's awesome. If this is what the business that you want to run, and this is where you want to take things.
Yeah. All right, guys. Next week we'll go over one of the biggest, if you will, in my opinion, one of the biggest downfalls of most rank and rent is how to handle the phone calls, how to handle phone calls and volumes and leads. I think we'll do next week. We're going to go over that feature and everything. Once again, appreciate you coming in, Patrick, going over this, and we'll have you again. I'll see you later on this week. And guys, you have a great day. Be blessed.
Awesome. All right. Nice talking to you guys. Good to see you, William. We'll talk soon, brother.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay.
Many SEOs that hate me and say that I'm stealing their methods. They bitching and cry, labeling me SEO Black Hat. Was a nobody, now I'm at the top. Most wanted, most loved, bad business owners, and hated by most SEO opponents. You think you're an SEO god, but you're an SEO fraud. Guess I'm the SEO devil, shouting fuck the SEO guys. White hat SEO doesn't make sense, going with the goody goodies. Up in heaven dressed in white, I like black Tims, I like black hoodies. Fake SEOs up there probably have me